Paul is saying when he says in the last days, I want you to know when the last days are. The last days are the end of the Jewish system of worship, which ends literally at Acts chapter 2, beginning at verse number 38. It proceeds with the whole Jewish law that began in Exodus chapter 20, which is the issuing of the law. Now, once the law comes to an end, it comes to an end at Acts chapter 2. And that is the end of the law. Now, watch it here, the last days, and it is the beginning of the Christian period of time. Once the gospel is authority unto salvation, we are now in the Christian age. We are in the age when these very things that Paul is talking about have come to pass. These are issues and the circumstances of humans who, if they do not seek God's healing powers, they will victimize themselves by these attributes that they have taken on in their vindictive spirit because of what has happened to them. Paul tells Timothy that in the last days, people are going to be exhibiting increasingly demonic-like behaviors that can be so frightening to us. He says in the text, he says, listen, you avoid. Now, what he's talking about is, he's talking about fellowshipping. You avoid fellowshipping with people who are dedicated to these hostile attributes towards God. He's not necessarily talking about us. They may not be doing anything to us, but when humans magnify these attributes, they are opposing God. They are deliberately in contention with God, and they don't even know this. He says, if I may, and I'll come back at this at another time. He says, people shall be lovers of themselves. Now, how would you like to be married to a person who is a lover of himself or herself exclusively? How would you like to be married to that? See, we don't even have to describe this as a marriage plan for believers. We can see some wise points in there that will tell us who we should hook up with and who we should not hook up with because of what the outcomes will be. If we're looking for the ideal, then we must understand where people are at, what their convictions are, and whether or not they have a sincere, passionate desire to let God help them overcome the conditions they're in. He says they will be lovers of money. These are idolaters, folk. People who place a material prosperity above God, they are idolizing. That is their God. Their confidence and their assurance is in money. And if you want to be hooked up with somebody like that, then the reality is do not anticipate an outcome that will be pleasing or beneficial to you. But on the course of Paul's thinking while teaching Timothy, he's suggesting that people who exist in this fallen world don't realize that they are taking on attributes that can destroy their lives. And God is saying to us who have been empowered with love, who have the capacity to exhibit self-discipline, that he wants you, when we interact with people like this, to discern their circumstances and discern if we can help them or if we cannot help them. He says they'll be boastful. They'll be proud. They'll be abusive. And I hope I'm not describing anybody in your life, because I'm not trying to say you're in a hopeless situation. They are disobedient to their parents. It's an ungodly attribute, an attribute that can bring on the wrath of God. They are ungrateful. They are unholy, which means they have no aspiration at that time for God-likeness. We don't know about the future, but at that time they have no aspiration towards God-likeness. They are without love. Listen to me closely. When you are helping and ministering and caring for people, and they have no deep-seated desire to show love towards you because of what you're doing, you are dealing with a compassionate-less human being at that time. You are dealing with a compassionless human being. They are unforgiving. No matter what you say, they're going to hold anything that was done to them. They're going to hold it in as a grudge or a response to the relationship, because they are unforgiving people. They are slanderers. They will let stuff come out of their mouth that will wound you. Now, we're only saying that these people have been damaged by their human journey. But the reality is, if they do not invite God into their life, they will never experience healing from that which they have been a victim of. They never will. They have no self-control. They're brutal. They're not lovers of good. They're lovers of evil. They are treacherous people. They're so conniving and so crafty and so tricky. They will weasel you out of stuff, and you won't know you've been weaseled until it's too late. Lord have mercy. They are rash. They are conceited. They are lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God.